The world is a vampire sent to drain. Secret destroyer.
Hey everyone, it's Ivan, KidBadger.com, here to bring you part 2 in our series on suicide. First one, part 1, being on youth suicide, kids, depression, just bad, dark times. Right now, we're going to jump more into part 2, being into PTSD with respect to military and law enforcement, to include contracting. Part 1, with respect to youth, absolutely resonated me on the level of having made that journey through those dark times, largely in part helped by one of my best friends and one of my mentors to this day, about 40 years my senior, who has kind of dealt with it on the other side with the PTSD. He ended up retiring from Pomona PD, like full-on hardcore narcotics SWAT, like pretty much everything, adrenaline, everything, and he ended up dealing with it. And there's also other people that have absolutely touched my lives, whether it's been in military, law enforcement, or even contracting, that have definitely kind of gone through those dark times with respect to suicide and PTSD. So how does PTSD kind of play into this? Well, I'm absolutely not a doctor. I see PTSD as basically, it's a coping mechanism, a way to compartmentalizing things. People can only see or do so many things before that catches up, whether it's their actions that they've done, regardless of however righteous, or there's only so many burnt bodies and dead babies you can see before that really affects you. And if you're in positions where you need to perform, i.e. military, contracting, law enforcement, you compartmentalize things. You put them in a box and you set them over here. Like, it's not forgotten, but we move it out of our mind and we put it in this little box and we shove it way back over here so that it doesn't affect our performance, so that we can go through with all these things that we need to do on a daily basis. Kind of different sides of it. Some people have it worse than others, arguably. Like law enforcement, basically going to war every day. You go to work, who knows what you're going to deal with? Like, who knows? Might be traffic stops, might be a traffic stop turned into like a fight for your life. Who knows what's going on? Conversely, as soon as you come home, you kind of got to turn that off. And so you're continually boxing this stuff up and setting it off to the side. On the military side, we go on deployments. And while there, again, put all that stuff in the box, keep pushing it back, because we got to get through the entire deployment. And on the other side, contracting, same thing. Put it in the box, push it off to the side. But eventually we have to make peace with some of that stuff. From what I've observed and experienced on a very small scale, none of it really comes out until you no longer need to keep it in the box, i.e. when we're done performing whatever duties we needed to perform. Whether it's ultimately when someone retires from law enforcement, or people come home from a deployment and have like this huge span of time during which they may very well never deploy again, or even contracting. Contracting is one of those things where you never really unpack. You never really unpack anything. You're on maybe a 60-60 rotation, you come home, your bag, metaphorically and physically, never really gets unpacked because you're already preparing to go back. And so all this stuff stays compartmentalized because you know you need to go deal with it. But what I've witnessed from friends contracting and stuff, when that actually comes out is when the realization that they're not going to go back, when they're done, when they finally stepped away for good from contracting, that's when all that stuff kind of catches up. Or, like I said, people retire from law enforcement, military, at the point when you realize you're not going back to that. What's actionable? What can we actually do? It's really great pointing out a problem, but if you don't bring a solution to the table, who gives a shit, really? And to that end, like the whole, what is it, like 22 push-ups a day? You know what? If you bring awareness to it, that's great, but are you really helping anything? And I don't have the answer, and if you think you're helping, please continue doing so. But I think what it really comes down to is finding these different things that people can actually action and help them to deal with all that stuff that's been just compartmentalized for all these years. To that end, what do we do? Well, in a conversation with one of my buddies, again, best friend, mentor, helped me through the dark times when I was a kid, What he ended up explaining to me I thought was amazing, and I never heard it explained. So to that end, I'll go ahead and tell you what he had done. And if it helps one person, that's amazing. It's a success. But what he did ultimately was he killed that person. What do I mean by that, right? Well, who he was in his law enforcement career, even the name he went by, rank, whatever it is, that person was done. That person, is his mind, was killed in the line of duty. And it was this ever going, constantly to this day, process of continually reinforcing that. Like, that person is dead. Like, not that that person was bad or any of this other stuff, but, and not even like, hey, that stuff never happened, but that happened to this part of me in my life, and that person is no longer there. And it can be something too where, honestly, it really helps to maybe attach it to something physical. There's people with respect to religion, like they don't necessarily have the faith in the religion until they have that crucifix in their hand, some sort of physical object. So even if it dovetails with a badge or rank insignia, uniform, whatever it may be, but basically creating and continually reinforcing that mindset that that person is dead. Done, like they never came back. And with that, freeing yourself of all the baggage that happened with that person. Not to say that that isn't part of you or anything like that, but basically as a way of moving forward and separating yourself from all the horrible events that maybe you had to, one, either participate in or even just witness. Another possible avenue is, especially if you're any good whatsoever at writing, is telling the story in third person. What happened, how that person dealt with it, how that person felt about it, what that person thought about it, like all these different things. And in the sense of a third person, like you're writing a story about someone. What's kind of weird with that is, one, it allows you to basically decompress and push all those events that happened out into this fictional character, how that person felt about it. And it's weird in the sense that it's liberating when it's not like, well, the way I felt when this happened or having witnessed whatever it may be, it totally shifts it to where it's a lot easier to kind of break down those walls and pour stuff out when you're relating it and you're kind of distancing it from yourself. Kind of going back to the idea of whoever it was when you were out there, when you were working, deployed, however it was, that person never came back. Killed in action, killed in the line of duty. The idea of transferring all of that stuff over here. Again, we're not trying to bury it. We're recognizing it, we're pushing past it, and we're dropping that pack, no longer carrying that. Additionally, something that helps me, honestly, just day to day, whether it's respect to growing and kind of investing my all into Kit Badge or any of these other things, is the saying, which I'm going to paraphrase. And honestly, I don't even care what the original intent was, although I'm pretty sure it dovetails with my intent and how I understand the saying, but never cut down a tree in the wintertime. What does that mean for me? In the wintertime, you have this big tree, might look really scraggly, there's no leaves on it or anything like that, and don't cut that down. Who knows what that's going to do for you into the spring, into the summer, into the fall, what kind of shade it's going to cast for you, what kind of fruit it's going to produce. You have no idea. And when we get in these really dark spots, the last thing we want to do is make a decision that's going to have a very lasting impact. And this doesn't even pertain necessarily directly to suicide, but it absolutely pertains to suicide. We get this myopic view of like, everything is terrible right now. We're in the middle of winter. We're going to go out and cut that tree down. Do not cut the tree down. Who knows what amazing fruit that tree is going to produce given the opportunity. Whether you need to sleep on it, take a week to think about it, whatever it is, you're going to come out the other side of whatever space you're in and realize that, you know what? I'm glad I didn't cut this tree down. Lastly, nobody's problems are unique. A lot of people are going through this stuff. Reach out to other people. They may very well be going through the same thing. And in talking about it, it can absolutely help. Kind of looking back at all of it though, hopefully some of this is actionable. One, The concept and idea, again, this isn't turn a switch and it's done. It's constantly reinforcing like that mental concept idea of the person that experienced all these things, they're dead. They're gone. It's not a bad thing, but they're gone. And everything that they carried with them is gone too. Or, if it helps, pouring out all those experiences in a third person. This person did this. They felt this way about it. Later, they were considering these things, and this was kind of eating at them. Whatever it may be, pour it into the written word, or whether you record audio. However, tell the story in third person. Lastly, don't cut down that tree in the middle of wintertime. You will appreciate that tree come spring and summer. I'm hoping this in some ways is actionable, and hopefully it helps one person. I've absolutely had friends that have gone down this road, and it's a dark place, and it's unfortunate. But as always, thanks for joining us at kidbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.